The wind struck the face like a slap. Breathing was no longer an automatic reflex. It required conscious effort. At more than 8,000 meters above sea level, bodies no longer fully belonged to themselves. Time did not slow down here. It unraveled. In Everest's death zone, even a few steps could take hours. The summit was close, a thin white line, barely visible through the mist, but below, nothing could be seen. The route back had been erased by wind and snow. Climbers now had to think not only about reaching the top, but about survival itself. Every decision made at this point was irreversible. Everyone in the group had come here for a different reason. Some had dreamed of this moment their entire lives. Some wanted to prove something to themselves. Others saw it as a job. But in the death zone, reasons lose their meaning. Here, everyone is equal. Cold, lack of oxygen, and exhaustion grant no privilege to anyone. The guide signaled for a short break. Speaking was difficult. Sentences broke apart. Words scattered before leaving the mouth. The raspy sound of oxygen masks blended with the wind. Some had removed their masks. Oxygen tanks were running low. The same question was on everyone's mind, but no one asked it out loud. Continue. One climber dropped to his knees. He struggled to stand. Someone moved to help, but at this altitude, even helping was a risk. One person stopping meant others would have to stop as well. And stopping here meant freezing. Eyes shifted away. No one wanted to look directly at anyone else. Reaching the summit had become less of an achievement and more of an obsession. The group had been moving for hours, and the point of no return was approaching. But with the summit so close, the idea of turning back felt unbearable. The human mind began to function not on logic, but on hope. The thought of just a little more was the most dangerous idea of all. The weather suddenly turned harsher. The wind changed direction. Everyone was forced to move at their own pace. From this point on, no one could truly see anyone else. Everest did not shout at anyone in that moment. It did not chase anyone away. It simply stood there, silent, unmoving, indifferent. The people upon it continued to push their limits. The summit was still there, but the way down was now very far away. As they moved deeper into the death zone, the connection between body and mind began to weaken. Even the simplest actions required calculation. Taking a step, stopping, adjusting a mask. Everything had to be done deliberately. But as oxygen levels dropped, the ability to think slowed as well. Logic gave way to instinct. Some reached the summit. If only for a brief moment. Photos were taken, flags were raised. A quiet sense of triumph was felt. But those moments did not last. Because up here, every second was lived on borrowed time. Reaching the summit was not even half the task. The real challenge was making it back down. When the descent began, exhaustion revealed its true face. Feet dragged, balance faltered, reflexes slowed. One climber came off the rope. He sat down. He did not want to get up. His voice was weak. His eyes stared into nothingness. "I just need to rest," he said. But everyone knew the truth. At this altitude, there is no such thing as resting. The group stopped again. Who would help? Who would turn back? Who still had the strength? There were no clear answers. Because everyone was in the same condition. Helping meant putting two lives at risk. But continuing meant leaving someone behind. This was the question the mountain never asked, but the climbers were forced to ask themselves. Could one life be weighed against the lives of others? Some tried to help. They offered a shoulder. They extended a rope. But bodies were heavy. Time was slipping away. The wind grew stronger. Darkness fell. And in the end, even if no one said it out loud, everyone had made the same decision, to continue. The climber left behind slowly faded from view. He did not shout. He did not ask for help. He was simply there, silent. In the death zone, silence is the most terrifying sound. For those moving downward, guilt became a heavier burden than exhaustion. But they could not stop, because stopping meant the end for everyone. From that point on, there were no heroes, only people trying to survive. Hallucinations began. Some thought they heard voices. Some believed someone was walking beside them. In reality, no one was there. The mountain had begun to play with the human mind. Everyone was alone with their own fear. Hours later, the lights of the first camp appeared. It meant that survival was possible again. But not everyone had returned. The numbers did not add up. Someone had been left above, and everyone knew it. When they reached lower ground, no one spoke. There was no victory, no celebration, only a deep silence. Even those who had reached the summit kept their eyes down, because everyone was thinking the same thing. The decisions made up there could never be left behind. The mountain was behind them, but those who came down were no longer the same. When morning came, the mountain was the same. The wind had stopped. The sky was clear. It looked as if there were no traces left from what had happened the day before. Everest was quiet again, as if it had left everything behind. But for the people, it was different. Those who returned to camp moved slowly. No one was in a hurry. Conversations were brief. Eyes avoided one another. No one asked about those who were missing, because everyone already knew the answer. Rescue teams went up the mountain. But it was little more than a formality. In the death zone, there is no such thing as rescue. There are only realizations that come too late. After a while, the news spread. Names were released. Numbers were given. Phrases like harsh conditions, sudden weather changes, and unavoidable risks were repeated. The media focused on those who had reached the summit. Success stories were told. Photographs were shared. But those left behind were often reduced to a single line. For the survivors, the real struggle was only beginning. They had come down from the mountain, but the decisions were still inside them. Some could not sleep at night. Some replayed the same moment over and over. The question, "What if we had waited one more minute?" became a burden with no answer. Some never climbed again. Some returned years later, but none of them were the same. Because Everest takes more than bodies from people. It takes a piece of their conscience as well, and it does so quietly. As the years passed, the event was lost among other climbs. New records were set, new tragedies followed, old stories faded into archives, but what happened there still remained for those who truly looked. In the same place, at the same altitude, in the same silence, Everest is still there. It remembers nothing.
The death zone. That's where we're headed.
Nothing.
It's so
But
far.
for people,
And so indifferent.
this story
we
is
have
not
to
about
go.
a summit. It is about a decision. And for some, that decision remained a burden carried for a lifetime.